check out the perks I've got over on Patreon, and a big thank you to the patrons who allow this video to happen, including the big patron of the month, the Nerd Therapist. Hey Pokemon Masters, Bookkeeper Toby here, and Detective Pikachu is now out. Have you seen it yet? I hope so, because this video will contain some kinds of spoilers, probably some light spoilers. It's an Easter eggs and every Pokemon in there breakdown video, and you know there's over 150 of them. I have already had the chance to see the video. Warner Brothers very kindly invited me out and said, hey, come and watch, so thank you Warner Brothers UK for that. So yes, I did get to see the film before release, and I've been keeping things hush-hush on social media, but now I can finally talk about it. And I am going to see the film again tonight, so if there's anything that I miss in the bulk of this video, I'm going to film something else tonight to stitch onto it. But all of that, it's all coming right after I say thank you to the sponsors of today's video, Displate. You see these bad boys on the wall behind me? These are Displates, and they are so good. They're full-on, very sturdy, metal-plated designs that are super easy to swap. Look, watch how easy this is. Oh no, I don't like this one. Done. Unbelievably easy to swap out. Every time you buy one, it helps me out. There is a discount code, of course, on screen and in the description. And on top of that, I am launching 2 new designs that right now are exclusive to Display. The new Team Snooze Recruit poster featuring the new Team Snooze designs as done by Kevin Crust. And the Team Snooze Have You Seen These Criminals Wanted poster. I'm a big fan of this one in particular, and I'm going to get those sent out to me very, very soon. Right now, they are exclusive to Display. Of course, you can use discount code, get some cash off, and there are a bunch of lovely other wall designs that you can check out, lots of pop culture stuff, but every time you buy something it does help out the channel. I am an affiliate with them, but also they are the sponsor of today's video, so thank you to Display. And let's get on with it. Right, last chance for a spoiler warning. I'm going to run down absolutely everything, and as for how many little references, Easter eggs and Pokemon there are, there'll be a little counter at the top, so yeah, join in with me with that, why don't you? And of course, let me know if there's something I missed in the comments. So, number 1, Tim Goodman has a Pikachu. Pikachu is in this movie. Raichu and Pichu, sadly, are not. Lucy Stevens has her partner, which is a Psyduck, and I think the fact that she's a redhead whose partner is a Psyduck is definitely supposed to be a nod to Misty and her Psyduck, who also has the same chronic headache that Lucy Psyduck has. Detective Yoshida has a Snubbull, and this is also a reference because all of the police departments in the Alola region also have Snubbull and Gramble as their mascots. The main villain, of course, Mewtwo. In the overworld, we see Bulbasaur and Venusaur, Charmander and Charizard, Squirtle and Blastoise, so all of the Kanto trio of starters. However, this is not set in the Kanto region, there'll be nods to that later. We see trainers with Rattata, Pidgeotto, Growlithe and Arcanine, Doduo and Dodrio, Gengar and Kingler, Lickitung with a very slobbery tongue who licks Tim Goodman's face. Does that count as using Lick Attack? We see a Magikarp that evolves into Gyarados and an Eevee that evolves into Flareon. The Magikarp actually evolves into a Gyarados as a result of the Rage dust thing that's in the movie. The Rage Serum, the gas. So that kind of reminds you of the Lake of Rage, where they forced Magikarp to evolve into Gyarados. So that in itself is a reference. There's trainers with Aipom, Sneasel, Octillery, Trico, Ludicolo, Slacking, and Loudred. No trainers owned a Gen 4 Pokemon, although one does appear in the film. That being a Torterra that appears as a giant Torterra. This may be a reference to the island of the giant Pokemon, as well as just being a general reference to Torterra's origins, which is the world turtle, a turtle that has a whole world on its back. From Unova, we've got Joltik, Bufalon, Ordino, Perleon, Golurk, and Rufflet. And then from Kalos, we've got Greninja and the Pancham line, including Pangoro. And while we see these Pokemon owned by Pokemon trainers, there's also a bunch of these Pokemon in the wild as well. And a bunch of other Pokemon in the wild, which helps flesh out the region of the Pokemon world. You've got some of the trainers using the same Pokemon that appear in the wild, like Pancham and Pangoro. They're owned by both trainers and in the wild. Another example of this is Rufflet. We see it in both the wild and owned by trainers. We actually also see its evolution, Braviary, owned by trainers. In the wild, there is a Jigglypuff who has both the microphone and is singing the original classic Jigglypuff song, so that in itself is an additional reference. There is Mr. Mime. There is Snorlax acting as a roadblock, again, another reference to Snorlax blocking roads. And there is wild Emolga, Morolol, Comfey, and Flabebe. Now, all of these Pokemon you may well be familiar with because they were all in the trailers, which is quite bizarre. And so while watching the film, I was looking out for Pokemon that aren't in the trailers, and I'm sad to say that I could only spot 4. The first one I saw is Graveler using its rollout attack in the underground battle sequence. There is a Togepi which is also in the underground fighting ring, and that's kind of weird to me because Togepi is like the friendliness and a happiness Pokemon, so the idea that its trainer would be like an underground dodgy thug type person is kind of weird to me. Totodile appears right in the beginning of the film with Bill Nye, which is a weird thing to say. And there was a Ditto. Now, Ditto did appear in the Pokemon card game, but hadn't appeared in any of the trailers. And Ditto is, I'm just totally sold on Ditto in this film. Ditto makes this film incredible. It keeps the Ditto face like Duplica's Ditto from the anime, and it also transforms into people, but people with that face. So with that in mind, that's another reference for the Ditto. So overall, we've got, I think it's like 53, 54 Pokemon. But now let's go for some other little references, including the reason that we know that this isn't the Kanto region. It's because in the film they mention Mewtwo having escaped from the Kanto region about 20 years ago. About 20 years ago is when Red, Blue and Yellow came out, and Mewtwo is the boss at the end of the game, so it's kind of suggesting that Kanto exists in the same world, which makes sense because in Tim Goodman's room we see a poster suggesting the Sinnoh region championships. We also see another poster that mentions the Cerulean Gym championships, and actually while we're on that scene, we get posters that show Dragonite, Hypno, Articuno, Steelix, Charizard, Reshiram and Zekrom, Rayquaza, Blastoise and Blaziken, and in the film there's a flashback scene that shows posters that have Nidoking and Feraligatr. There are a number of street signs scattered throughout the film. I've seen references to Magneton, Dugtrio, Scrafty, Jolteon, Petilil, Wooper, Victini, Agumi, Swirlix, and in one of the posters, and I'm pretty sure I saw it in the movie as well, Masquerain. In the movie, I actually also saw signs that had references to Cherubi, Togepi again, and Lunatone. Tim Goodman, of course, in the film wears shirts that have unknown on them. Multiple unknown for different times throughout the film. I'm still looking out for more unknown. I will be tonight to see if I can spell a word. The villain's lair has Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia as statues, as well looks like what looks like a Nevermelt Ice, an Icy Stone, and possibly an old Amber. In the movie, there are floats for Pikachu, Gengar, I think Blastoise was there as well, Jigglypuff, and in the movie we see Lugia. Lugia is spewing out a purple kind of gas. And it kind of reminds me, I don't know if it's an actual nod, but kind of reminds me of Shadow Lugia. XD Gale, Darkness reference? Probably not. Speaking of that gas, it's called R, and R represents both Rage, which is what it is. It's created from Mewtwo and it allows Pokemon to become really strong. It's actually kind of a reference to the Berserk gene from Pokemon Gold and Silver, a gene of Mewtwo's that allows Pokemon to become strong. But also R could be a little nod to Team Rocket, and the reason that they called it R is because of that. One of the characters that Ditto takes the form of certainly looks a little teeny tiny bit like Jessie. We see old wood carvings at the beginning of the film that depict Wooper and Slowbro, as well as Natu and Apricorns, which are used to create Pokeballs in olden days, and it is like an Egyptian carving. And that is just the tip of the iceberg, because there are so much more. Everything that is on this poster is also in the movie. And boy oh boy, there is a lot on that poster. There are references to Moo Moo Milk, the milk that Miltank produces. The Surf Shop, which is a nod to the HM for Surf and the Poke Ride ability. Unova Style Pizzas, which is a play on New York pizza. A Cycle Shop, because cycling is a common way to get around in the world of Pokemon. There is a Johto Sports Shop, a Pokemart, a Berry Juice, and signs with at least 10 different berries, and a sign for Revival Herb, Rare Candy, and sodas. A Crime Watch sign with Snubble, which is again a reference to the Pokemon Police Station. Mr. Mime's one-person mime show, which links in with the story because they I think they find Mr. Mime outside the back of his stage show. A shop that repairs shoes, and that makes a lot of sense because running shoes are very valuable in the world of Pokemon. They allow you to move a lot faster, and obviously they get very dirty, which is why a lot of people cycle. Licky Tongue's post office, the Hi-Hat Cafe, which has the Noctowl coffee sign. A Pokemon school, which kind of reminds you of the trainer school from the games. I don't know if that's a reference or not. A little advertisement for the SSN, which implies that the SSN did not sync after the events of the Generation 1 games. A Pokemon daycare, as in the daycare center where you breed Pokemon in the games. A Snap camera, which is a reference to, of course, Pokemon Snap and Todd Snap. Speaking of which, this whole movie is part of a spin-off game for Detective Pikachu, the spin-off game. When are we going to get a Pokemon Snap live-action movie? What do you reckon? I could audition for Todd Snap. I could be in that. There is Charizard's Barbecues, Eevee's Salons. There's an M2 on one of the dumpsters. I'm pretty sure I saw this in the film as well. M2, Mewtwo. The Rhyme City Rufflets versus the Kanto Kinglers, which again kind of pays nod to the fact that Rufflet is a wild Pokemon in the Rhyme City area. There is a little poster that has Machamp versus Primeape. This is definitely in the film. A Route 1 sign, because of course the Pokemon world is divided by routes, and a lot of missing Pokemon posters representing Pokemon like Pancham and Squirtle, which are constantly going missing in Rhyme City. I realized that earlier on, by the way, I totally forgot to mention Cubone. Cubone's in the film. It's a wild Pokemon. My bad. Other references, there's still loads to go. There is Oak Slab, or some building that has oak on it, which of course is a reference to Professor Oak. So perhaps at this point his brand, his image has expanded across the whole Pokemon world as a master researcher of Pokemon. There is an old detective movie that plays during the film. I'm not actually sure what the detective movie is. Any of you watching the film who know, let me know in the comments, but there is an old detective film playing in Tim Goodman's dad's house. Okay, big spoiler territory right here. Mewtwo in the film performs a memory wipe on Detective Pikachu. This is a nod to one of his big powers that he shows off in the Pokemon First movie, where right at the end he performs a memory wipe on all of the main characters. There is a reporter called Cynthia. I don't know whether this is really a nod to Cynthia from Generation 4, probably not, but the reporter mentions her name. There is the Squirtle Squad, which are kind of like the fire brigade of the Pokemon world. They put out fires and they're dressed as Squirtle. It's the Squirtle Squad. There is another scene where on the background we see a bunch of different Pokemon kind of appearing, and Mew is one of them. Mew is also mentioned in the film earlier when they're talking about the creation of Mewtwo. As well as the moves Rollout and Lick, which we saw earlier, we actually see a ton of Pokemon moves in this. And to top it all off and round off this video, Detective Pikachu himself is wearing a Deerstalker hat because it is representative of Sherlock Holmes. Lots of the film is shot in areas of London. You can see some signs that are clearly tube signs. London is the home of Sherlock Holmes, the great detective. Detective Pikachu is the great detective Sherlock Holmes. Also, a little side note, there are Pokemon cards in Tim Goodman's room, and I think this is really cool. It's implying that Pokemon cards exist in the world of Pokemon, which is seen once in an anime episode, but more prevalently in the Pokemon second movie, where the main villain has an ancient Mew card. It actually kind of looked like the set that was on the front of the binder was possibly the Ancient Origins set, but I couldn't really tell. But the fact that Tim Goodman has Pokemon cards, I just think is really cool. But with all that being said, that is everything that I have seen. Now, how many is that? I don't know. I haven't even been counting. But I am now about to go and see the film again, so if I spot anything new, it'll go here. And back. As you can see, I've changed. I went to the film, and yes, there were more notes. I took a notebook in and wrote on it upside down because it was in the dark and all my notes are a complete mess. But I'm going to run through the extras very, very quickly. Number 1, Lucy Stevens' dashboard has a Spoink bobblehead. You can just imagine that bouncing up and down as she's driving along in her car. At the beginning of the film, it seems that Tim works for Whismur Insurance, and I didn't know if that was a play on Whismur the Pokemon, or whether I've got that one slightly wrong. The only one I can guarantee that I didn't get all the references for is very early on in the film, he has a newspaper. There are like 3 or 4 different headlines. I could not read them all. And of course, the main central one is that the police chief, his dad, had been attacked by Mewtwo or had disappeared. Rhyme City as a whole represents a Pokemon world in which Pokemon don't fight and don't exist within Pokeballs. This seems very similar to the vision of Team Plasma in the Generation 5 games. Maybe the person who founded Rhyme City in this vision is an ex-Team Plasma member, but that might not be a reference at all. Speaking of that character is played, again, spoilers, by Bill Nye. And in his office, there also seems to be what I don't know if it's a fossil for a Kabuto or there's some kind of stone tablet that looks very Ruins of Alfie. Now this one definitely is a reference. At the beginning of the film, the first thing that Mewtwo says is, "They're outside." This is a reference to when he's in his chamber in his containment tank in the first movie, and the first thing he says is, "Those voices, they're outside where I must be." Cubone is described as being lonely, which is an exact representation of what it is because it is the lonely Pokemon. Tim's friend Jack tells him that Pokemon partners are great, and then when he was sad, he gave him a hot glass of milk. It could well be that his partner was a Miltank, again, maybe not a reference that. However, what he does say is that the Pokemon has to choose you too, which is of course representative of, saying I choose you, but also the first episode title of Pokemon, I Choose You. As Tim is going into Rhyme City, there is Pokemon music playing. It is actually the Pokemon theme song, it's just the backing track to it. The Pokemon theme song comes up again later on when Detective Pikachu starts singing it very glumly. Which, does that mean that the Pokemon TV show, the anime, is a show within the world of Detective Pikachu? It would explain why later on Detective Pikachu tries to get on Tim Goodman's shoulder and he says no and that's embarrassing. This is definitely a reference to how Ash carries Pikachu around. In early parts of the film, we do see some stone tablets. I mentioned earlier that Natu was on one, but in the same one there is Sandshrew and Geodude. When Tim first enters Rhyme City, there is a sign which has like what looks like a shoe, but the shoe has a wing and it looks kind of like a shiny Dragonair. I'm not sure if this is a shiny Dragonair or just a meaning shoes that run fast, which again, we already counted earlier. However, there is a sign for somewhere called Cut Lunch, which I assume is a reference to the HM Cut. In the police department logo is 3 stars, 2 stripes, and a Charizard. There is a sign for a meditation place which has Meditite as the mascot. And as well as that, there's a sign for a place where you get ice cream called Cut Puff Place. I assume that's a reference to Slurpuff, the puff pastry Pokemon. Lucy Stevens says that she writes blogs about the top 10 cutest Pokemon, and I personally do think this is a reference. I think it is a direct dig at Pokemon YouTubers like myself, who do our top 10 cutest Pokemon videos, and of course Lucy says, who are we kidding? They're all cute. I don't think she's met Darkrai yet. Ancient Mew appears in the newspaper and is actually referred to as Ancient Mew. I'm not counting this one as an extra one, but it's not Oak Laboratories, it's Oak Apartments. The apartments where Tim Goodman lives is Oak Apartments. Pikachu talks about how he forgot his powers when he's in the underground arena. This again may be a reference to the first movie. Mewtwo says that he's switching off the Pokemon's special abilities, and so they have to battle kind of like regular style. I do believe that in the lore of the Pokemon world there is a distinct difference between Pokemon using their powers to attack each other in battle and just like regular physical fighting. It's no longer a sport, it's more of a death match. We also see a sign that says critical hit, because that is just like the game when it tells you that you get a critical hit in battle. Pikachu says that Pokemon can actually feel what people are saying, you just have to be open to the experience, and this is again a reflection on the show, on the anime, where Ash can seem to understand Pikachu. There is a big episode about the frontier brain of the Battle Tower. Annabelle, she can understand what her Pokemon are saying. In the marketplace there are lamps that kind of look a little bit like Chandelure, and there is also a sign that says Sun, which could be a reference to Pokemon Sun. Both of these things are very loose. If they are references, they are incredibly loose references. Pikachu says Sweet Mother of Arceus, which of course is a play on the blasphemic Sweet Mother of God, because Arceus is God in the Pokemon world. There is also a screen that I mentioned Mew being on earlier. That same Mew is actually representing some of the floats that are going to appear in the parade. However, here it shows Meowth, Mankey, Squirtle, Snorlax, and Krabby, as well as again Pikachu on the screen. So earlier on I mentioned Cynthia, and I didn't count it, but now I think I am, because it turns out that Cynthia's full name in this is Cynthia McMaster. Cynthia is a master, a Pokemon master. She's the champion Cynthia. It's got to be a reference. It's not the same character, I'm sure. Just a reference. The main evil team boss has a bonsai tree in his room, which kind of makes me think, why didn't they just have bonsai? There's a lot of other Sinnoh vibes going on in that room with the Arceus and Dialga and Palkia statues. Yeah, but whether that's a reference, we'll leave it off. Okay, I gotta assume that the Greninjas that were chasing the main characters are actually Protean Greninjas. This is because the last move they use is Water Shoryuken, which makes them water. Yes, they're water anyway, but usually they're water and dark. However, they do get affected by Psyduck's Sidewave Headache. So I'm gonna go ahead and say they had to be Protean, otherwise that scene just doesn't work at all. Okay, so the villains use Psychic Restraint on Mewtwo, and they look almost identical to the Psychic Restraints that appear in Pokemon, the special episode Mewtwo Returns, where Giovanni uses Special Restraints on Mewtwo. Okay, here we go. This is another bit that shows all of the different blimps in the city. I know I covered some of them before, so I'm going to try not to double count any, but Bulbasaur, Mr. Mime, Charizard, Snorlax, Pikachu, Emolga, Joltik, Mew, and Eevee all appear as floats. Speaking of Snorlax, there are some people wearing Snorlax outfits. I'm going ahead and calling it now. They are Team Snooze. Have you seen these criminals? Yes, we have. They are in this movie. We also see Pikachu go to attack Mewtwo, and Mewtwo uses Protect, so another move that I hadn't registered before. At the end of the film, there is a Sandshrew on an advertisement, and a Gengar, Jigglypuff, and again Pikachu on another screen on an ad at the end of the film. Also, the whole credit sequence is in itself a reference, with lots of Ken Sugimori classic art, including art of Lucy Stevens and Tim Goodman, and Detective Yoshida and Ryan Reynolds, which is really great. And also, just a couple of locations that we've got in mind here. These are not references, but Tatani Station is where Tim Goodman arrives, and he is leaving from Leaventown. And now, bonus round. Things friends have pointed out to me. Tanty Station is in fact a reference to Tanty Park, the first area that you visit in the Detective Pikachu video game. The Hi-Hat Cafe is also not made up for the film, it also exists in the video game. References to movies include when Greninja is keeping hold of Lucy Stevens on the roof and drips down onto the floor with slobber. That is a reference to Alien. The gas being released from the balloons is a reference to Tim Burton's Batman. And in the cards, try and calm down Psyduck, Pikachu says Serenity Now, which is a reference to Seinfeld. There is an image of an island that looks suspiciously like the Galar region, just saying. Also in Bill Nye's room there is an image of an Ouroboros, which is a giant serpent that eats its own tail. Just a general part of mythology in the real world. Kind of surprises me that they didn't use a dragon or serpent from the Pokemon world. I think the most accurate for this would have been Zygarde. The evil organization seem to be studying and altering Pokemon evolution. It's a pretty common theme throughout the Pokemon world, but might be a direct reference to Mega Evolution. There is a Baniri-themed cafe called Bun Buns, and there are 2 cameo appearances. One from artist Dipilo, I don't know if I'm saying that right. He plays the DJ in the underground fight scene, and Rita Ora, who did some music for the film's credits, also appears as one of the scientists. Okay, I got 3 more things for you, but they're not really references or Easter eggs. Number 1 is Kobo Soda appears absolutely everywhere in the film. It is a fictional soda made for the film. I don't know if it's a reference to anything, you can let me know in the comments. Also, Prep Manager and Premier Inn appear in the movie, and I'm just going to assume they weren't edited out properly. And also, part of the movie, part of the audio for it, was actually shot live at Pokemon Worlds. Here is a little clip of the cast of Detective Pikachu asking the audience to cheer on for either Pikachu or Charizard, and this audio was possibly used in the underground fight scene. Okay, back to real life me. And that is absolutely everything that I could possibly find. I don't know what that final score is right there, but thank you to my wonderful editor for making it happen. The editor of this video is, of course, the wonderful Kevin Crust, who also did the posters that are right now exclusively over on Display. Please use the discount code. Thank you to them for being sponsors, and let me know if I missed anything. I am tired now. I'm gonna go play some Pokemon. Also, the film, better on a second watch. Genuinely would recommend it if you weren't thinking of going and seeing it and you've decided to watch this video to have everything spoiled for yourself. Now go and enjoy it. And of course, soar high, Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Bird Keeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon